this is a delicate subject, right? Everybody, me and Renee, we don't have a prenup agreement.
I take you for all your coins.
I tried to get a prenup agreement initially on her, but it wasn't going to work.
You didn't have anything, Nee. I think there's exceptions to every rule, right? With you, you didn't have anything. You didn't have any assets that were worth protecting. So for me, it was just going to be an exercise just for the sake of proving a point, which didn't need to be proven. Whereas if I had someone who had something worth protecting, let's say that person was a millionaire, that would help to establish the trust, to say, I'm not marrying you for these things.
All right, y'all. It's Dr. Nee here. I'm joined by the one, the only, Dr. Renee, Chair Emeritus of the Student National Medical Association. What up, Madam Chair? How you doing?
That's Madam Cher. Remember, that was my...
Madam Cher.
Yeah, that was my...
Madam Cher.
Yeah, that was my tag. Back in the day, I was Madam Cher. I'm good.
Of the one and only, the famous Student National Medical Association.
Yeah, I'm doing good. Rejuvenated every time Easter rolls around, because every week before Easter, or that week of Easter, the Student National Medical Association has its annual medical education conference and House of Delegates convention. So, yeah, feeling good.
It's a big deal, guys. I'm going to be very honest with you. That the Student National Medical Association has been around since, what year was it? Do you remember better than 1960 what?
1964.
1964. This is an amazing organization. Me and Renee were part of this organization when we were students. And Renee continued to be, to have a very integral role as a resident. When she was in residency, she was still, doing a lot of the day-to-day things within the organization. And then even as an attending, Renee continues to have a very strong relationship with the folks who continue to run the organization, with the students who are involved, pre-medical students who are trying to get into medical school. And then by proxy, I get involved because Renee is so involved also.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say to everyone that I've been rejuvenated, and this year was a great one. So I always say the smaller the town or the more low key the town. This year it was in St. Louis,
Missouri.
Whenever you do conferences. Yeah, whenever you do conferences and you go to a conference that's in like Las Vegas, or you do it in New York, or you do it in Los Angeles, or you do it in Florida, right? Or you do it in Irvington.
Florida's a whole city.
It's oh, my bad.
Miami.
But, when you do it in Miami or Irvington, you know what I'm saying?
Ain't nobody doing no damn
things...
conference in Irvington, Nee. Stop.
Not Irvington?
No.
Okay. Well, you know what I mean. But when it's really glamorous, glitzy town, people out and about, they're having fun. They ain't got time to go to all these different conferences and stuff, and all the different events, the plenary sessions, the HOD, all these different things. And I think what you end up finding is the more beautiful the city is, the less interaction that everybody has with each other. Because
engagement.
People click up. People click up and they're just like, yo, I'm out. We're going to the beach, or we're going to wherever is the nice place, and that's what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
When it's St. Louis.
St. Louis.
I guess
St. Louis ain't as much to do, right? And
St. Louis, we in the conference.
We in the conference,
and we DoorDash, and we're going to DoorDash, and we're going to have fun. We're going to have some good barbecue. And that's
Kansas
what
City
happened.
is more barbecue.
This year, I got a chance to get involved and piggyback off of Dr. Love and his wife, Dr. Uchenna. They did a presentation called, what is it? They talked about
how to stack
coins.
Your coins. Yeah.
Yeah. And basically, it's a talk to the students about how doctors make money, right? So we had a doctor who is an academic physician, how she makes money. A Dr. Love was talking about how he makes money. I talked about how I make money as a locum tenens doctor. The last doctor was talking about working as a private practice doctor. She's OB. And this was a really good conversation. Like Dr. Love spent a lot of time creating the presentation, and we talked about it a couple of times on the phone. Yeah. He did a great job. But as with every presentation at SNMA, it's all about the questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's always about the questions.
The students had a lot of great questions. Just a lot of great questions, really. And it just shows you that there is such a dearth of information in medical school, whereby the students, are just not learning this stuff, and then they go out.
Well, but if you think about it, there's no time. There's really no time. The way how things are jam packed in right now, at least in a traditional
Mm-hmm.
sense, right? You always got to think outside the box to get something done. So if you always think about things as the priority is learning about the human
Right.
body, which frankly it is, it's going to be tough to throw in a lot of these things. And I think this is where SNMA shines. This
Mm-hmm.
is where whatever organization that has like some type of subspecialty feel to it, that's where they should shine, which is
Yeah.
being able to sprinkle these types of
Yeah.
information. So that's why sometimes I was thinking in my mind, I was like, well, why would med students want to hear about this now? Right? Why
Mm-hmm.
would pre-meds want to meet this? But they all came,
Mm-hmm.
which meant that they are interested. They're really interested in learning about this
Yeah.
stuff. They're really interested to know. Like, and we set the barrier of how does each of us make $300,000?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I went up there, the first thing I said is everybody should relax and know that whether you're a pediatrician or you're a neurosurgery, you're going to make at least $300,000 or have the opportunity
Yeah. You have that
to make
potential.
$300,000.
Yeah.
Right? You have the potential to make
At
$300,000. And
least.
to me, I felt like everybody, at least the students in the room were like, like, I feel good about this,
Yeah.
right? I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed talking to them. And like the questions we got, like, for example, I kept some notes here. Like people were asking what type of business,
Mm-hmm.
right? Should we do LLC? What is an S Corp? What is a C Corp? Like this is not us talking about it. These are the students asking us back. they they asked us about prenup agreements.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have to admit that I had to take it personal and talk about me and you and
I
our
wasn't
prenup
in the room
agreement.
at that point. I had to leave to go to the pre-med
Yeah,
luncheon.
yeah.
But yeah, what'd you say? What'd you say?
Well, I this is a delicate subject, right? This is a very delicate subject because spoiler alert, everybody, me and Renee we don't have a prenup
I
agreement.
take you
I
for all your
tried to get a
coins.
prenup agreement.
I take you for all your coins.
I tried to get a prenup agreement initially on her, but yeah, it wasn't going to work. And
You didn't have anything neat.
that's the whole premise.
Exactly. But you always
But I think
stop
that's the
short
I
of
think
that.
that's
You always stop short of
well
that.
of that. No, there's not that I stopped short of it. It's I tried to do it. You said something. I'm like, yeah, you made sense. And that's why I think so. When a student asked this question, I gave my answer, which is between me and my wife, we don't have a prenup agreement. And there's multiple reasons why. One is we kind of grew up like matured with each other, right? Like we went to
Yeah.
med school together. We went to med school when we didn't have anything. You had your 1991 Nissan Stanza. I had my Volkswagen Jetta and a lot of student loan debt, and that's it.
Yeah.
I didn't have a house. I didn't have anything that I wanted to protect.
Well, you did have a house.
And I think
you did have a house.
but the key is something that I wanted to protect. And I think
Right.
Love clarified this later on. He's like, one thing to consider when you're getting a prenup agreement is what exactly are you trying to protect the most if you had to split up.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, between me and you, like I didn't have anything
Worth
outside
protecting. Yeah.
worth protecting from you at that point, right? Like for example, like let's say me and you met and we decided to live in, my parents' house.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say my parents, gave me my house,
Right.
gave me their house,
Right.
and they decided to give me the house, and we lived there,
Mm-hmm.
and we fixed it up. And then it's like, well, now because we get a divorce, like we got to go half on this, or you're gonna take the house,
Right.
like no, right? That's different. So, so from a prenuptial agreement standpoint, the other thing too is we dated for almost 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to know each other really well.
Yeah.
Really well.
Really well. Ooh, you can't.
You farting in the sleep, I got to learn about all of that.
Really, Nee? Really?
Too much?
Everybody farts. Everybody poops. It's a good book.
An elephant makes a big poop. A mouse makes a tiny poop.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't fart.
You don't poop either?
No, I do poop, but I don't fart in my sleep.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what you think. Anywho.
But but we got to know each other really well.
Yep.
And the other thing is we went to school and there was money that was going between us. There was a couple of times where you fronted me for rent.
Mm-hmm.
I just needed help with rent. There was a couple of times where, I would front you for lunch or dinner or something like that.
Yeah. We never really
and
had
I think
money problems between us. Like if there was never well, I paid the last time, why don't you pay? We just didn't have those
there wasn't.
discussions.
No.
And we didn't have the type of relationship where I felt like, oh, well, you're the guy, so you have to pay. We were just students.
No, you never played me like that.
Yeah.
I have to admit, you never played me like that.
Yeah.
But there are people who are in relationships who, they, for example, they're in med school. Like I'm going to say this as women, right? I'm sure there are women who are in med school and they're dating someone or meet someone while they're in medical school who's not a doctor or who is not a med student,
right.
who's not in the field,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's tough. Or let's say you're an attending, you're a doctor, and you meet someone who's not who's not in medicine, and you've already acquired so many different things. You have your own car, you have your own house.
Mm-hmm.
Even for men. I mean, I whatever specialty you may want to think of, a physician assistant or what have you, like there's a lot of things where you just accumulate a lot of things on your own. Should you sign a prenup agreement?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's a hairy subject.
Yeah.
You want to weigh in on that? You got anything to say about that?
I think that, I think the prenup.
Oh God, here's the pause.
I think the prenup agreement. Listen, I like to meet people where they are, right? And if someone says, hey, like if I were dating somebody, let's say I was dating somebody who actually had assets, had accumulated stuff, things that they felt like were really important to them, then I might have signed a prenup agreement with that person.
If they brought it up,
yeah,
right?
if they
Bring
brought
the
it
mic
up.
a little bit to your
if
side.
if they brought it up, I might have signed a prenup agreement with them, right? But for me, it would have been, okay, well, this is something that actually has to be worth protecting, right? Like if they had like a trust fund, right, that they got from their parents or something, yeah, I would be like, I would have probably brought it up. I would have probably been like, you might want to protect that because I don't want this to be a point of contention, right? Like I don't want this to be a point of contention within the within their family.
But part of the things that you said when you were, besides saying that I didn't own anything, part of it was you said was, look, I don't want to go into a relationship with one leg in, one leg out.
Mm-hmm.
So you said that,
yes.
right? Okay. So if you were to meet someone who had a trust fund or who had, their parents' house that you guys are going to live in, why doesn't that apply then?
Well, because I think that there are exceptions to a rule. Right? Like, I think there are exceptions to a rule. And I think that, essentially you have to kind of show a sign of trust. With you didn't have anything worth protecting. So it was like, okay, well, we're doing.
You ain't never gonna have.
People listen to this show with children, Beat that out, Alfred. Anyway.
Hey, yo, shout out to everyone who said what's up to us at the conference. I did not know people would listen. Yo, to this day, like right now, behind this camera is this kitchen, like this kitchenette in this extended stay hotel. Like that's who I think is listening. Like these cups,
big cups,
my muscle milk, the cabinet. Yeah. But it's shocking when you have people say, "Hey, I listened to your show," and it's just crazy. But go ahead.
Wait, hold on.
Shout out to the new listeners.
Shout out to Ghani Ali, who is at the Medical College of Wisconsin. Alfred, I'm going to show you a little pic of Ghani. I want you to show it on this podcast here. But I was walking into the Marriott and he was like, Dr. Renee Darko. And I was like, huh? And he's like, I listen to the podcast all the time. I was like, I'm going to shout you out. So there you go, Ghani. Shouted you out. Medical College of Wisconsin. Cool dude. But anyway.
So how do you feel with like because we're going to go back to the prenup, but I do want to ask you, like, how does it feel to know that I made you into a celebrity? How do you feel about that?
Excuse me? So let's going back to the prenup. because you bugging. Going back to the prenup, I think there's exceptions to every rule, right? With you, you didn't have anything. You didn't have any assets that were worth protecting. So for me, it was just going to be an exercise for the sake of just doing an exercise, right? Just for the sake of proving a point, which didn't need to be proven. And that was that you didn't have anything that was worth protecting, right? And for me, that's where it's like, listen, I don't want to go through this exercise with you and pretend that we each have things that are worth protecting and that, this is going to establish some type of trust between us, because it's not. It actually, I think, is going to be too much of a point of contention between us, because we know that we don't actually have anything worth protecting. Whereas if I had someone who had something worth protecting, let's say that person was a millionaire, that person had, just lots of stuff. For me, I'm like, okay, well, I think that would help to establish the trust, to say, I'm not marrying you for these things, right? Like, this is not the reason that I'm marrying you. And I understand that these things were in your family, and you and your family would like to keep these things within your family, right? And so, yeah, I probably would have brought that up myself to say, hey, listen, let's sign a prenup, so that you can protect these things, or your family can feel like, not so much for the person, really, more for the family to feel like these things are protected. Not so much even for the person, because usually it's the family
That's
that
what's
gets
up.
in people's heads.
Do you think most women think like you? Because I don't think that many women think like you.
I don't know, but
If there's women out there who believe, who are on what Renee's, write us in and let us know.
Yeah.
But I don't think that many women think like you.
Yeah.
So
I mean, but you know me, that's something that I would do. I'd be like, I'm not marrying you for that. So really, it's for the sake of the family, to feel like the family, and especially if I'm the one that brings it up, if I bring it up first, then I think the family would really then trust that, yes, I am marrying this person because I really just want to marry this person. And I don't want to have problems with my in-laws. I don't want to have problems, with my, parents-in-law, my siblings-in-law. I don't want to have problems with these people. So let them just, have that peace of mind that the things that their family worked for is protected. Because if it were my family, I would want it protected. If I were in that situation, I would.
what's good, everyone? This is Dr. Nee. This is the end of this segment. I appreciate you for listening, but this ain't the end. If you want more, go ahead and click the next button on your favorite podcast app. Listen, that's next for more banter between me and Dr. Renee. That's next for more topics. That's next for more segments. Listen, did you hit next yet? Go ahead and click next. Hit it. Next. Peace.